Hello everyone, so the goal of this video is to try and create a animation that's as professional as possible whilst using equipment that's kind of on a budget. The first thing we're going to be using is this Huion tablet. It's one of the lower range tablets. It hasn't got a screen, it's one of these ones. We're going to be using this and see how it fares whilst trying to do something like an animation. Here's the pen as well. So at the end of the video I'm going to be talking about how this went. The next thing we're going to be using is Fire Alpaca, which is a free like kind of drawing Photoshop software on PC. And we're also going to be using Film 4 Express, which is a video editing software to put all the frames together at the end and also add sound effects just from sound effect websites. So that's everything we're going to be using. This video is kind of also a review of those. The animation will be at the end, and before I show that at the end I'll come back and give a conclusion of how all these things worked. So yeah, let's go. The plan for this animation is to create a short video test of a bigger idea, which is a concept I've had for a while, which is, here's a piece of concept art for it. It's about a world where people can switch out their limbs to different various random objects and they like fight each other with it. It's kind of like a shonen manga where each character has their own special characteristics and moves and they kind of like battle each other. It'd be kind of unrealistic, but it'd be so absurd that it'd get played up, and it'd be visually interesting to see what random objects they'd use, because all the fighters kind of hoard and they work in their garages and like experiment by putting different things on them. They're kind of like cyborgs. So it's a bit like Ghost in the Shell, where the characters aren't really fully human and there's some kind of, there would be like some thematic stuff like that. The art style is kind of like a Kill la Kill, Gurren Lagann, like bright colours, and the fights would be really played up and exaggerated with flashing colours and the big spectacle to kind of push that absurdity and randomness of the brightly coloured random limbs. I'd say it has sort of a Western like kind of Adventure Time aspect as well, where the characters are kind of simplified and cartoony, where they've got like tube arms. So it's a kind of mix between manga and like Western cartoons. Before we start as well, I just want to say, whilst we're near the start of the video, then you can follow my Instagram for slightly more regular updates in between videos. But that's the plan, and yeah, let's get into it. Hello, so we're back 1 week later. The animation took a long time to make. I'm overall really happy with it. I would say the art is better than the animation itself. Some of the frames are a little bit janky, but I think it could pass as looking quite professional. I think I did a pretty good job of it. So we're going to talk about the piece of equipment that I use for it. Starting with the tablet, I would say it's definitely not perfect. Sometimes it can be slightly annoying because you're not looking at what you're drawing and it kind of messes with your head a little bit. Some lines you can't get straight as well because I'm used to moving the piece of paper that I'm drawing on around a lot, and you can't really do that because it's got to line up with the screen. It definitely takes a lot of practice. I'd probably get better at it if I kept using it. It definitely saved time rather than using a mouse, although sometimes I did find myself reverting back to a mouse to do some of the lines because they just weren't possible in here. Just after like 20 attempts I'd still not be able to do it. As for Fire Alpaca, the drawing software I used, there wasn't any problems. It was really good, apart from the fact that sometimes the control button would just like, I wasn't holding the control button but it would act like the control button was permanently down and didn't know why, so I had to mess about with it or close it and reopen it to stop it from doing that. It was like dragging, it was like grouping my layers and stuff without me wanting to. If anyone knows what that is, it's like if anyone knows what that problem is, then tell me down below, because it's like it thinks I'm holding the control button when I'm not. The editing software HitFilm was fine for making animation. I didn't really stick to a certain amount of frame rate, a certain FPS, because I just kind of did it by feel for what looked good and smooth. I probably should have thought of whether it was on 2s or there's this whole like list of rules of how you do the frames of an animation, but I just kind of did it by feel. Maybe next time I would instead focus and learn about how that frame rate stuff works. Also, a final thing to mention is on that HitFilm app I added a light flare on top of the image, which made it look a lot more professional. It gave the lights in the top left corner like a glow, which made it look really cool. And I kind of made it pan across by keyframing it and then moving each individual frame bit by bit slowly, so it kind of panned to the right. It was kind of hard to do because I had to move the frames and switch it to the next frame as it did it. So there might be some software out there that's better for that. Maybe HitFilm is a bit limited on that field, but it worked out pretty well. Yeah, so that's everything. I think Fire Alpaca and HitFilm worked really well. I would say the tablet is quite flawed. It would definitely be better to get an expensive one, but obviously a lot of people can't. I would say you definitely can work on this. You can definitely work with these 3 pieces of equipment. You could do it with a mouse. You don't have to buy a tablet. I would say you can definitely do it. It would just take a long time. I'd say you need to, if you're doing it this way, you'd need to hire some other people to help you. Maybe you draw like a storyboard and get other people to do it if you're trying to do a bigger project, but that is also expensive, so I don't really know. But for small things like this little mini animation, it definitely worked well. It just took a long time to do. So that's everything. Thanks for watching, and now we'll see the clip.
Let's get scratching.